I'm Jane Copier, and you're listening to Happy in the Middle, a podcast for Christian women who want to make the second half of life the best half. This podcast is all about helping women to reignite their spark and step into their divine power in order to create deep and connected relationships and also find that fulfillment and satisfaction they crave. So, if you're ready to grow, join me and learn how you too can overcome guilt, resentment, disappointment, and enjoy the fruits of creating a life well lived. Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Happy in the Middle. Today's episode is number 129, Life Lessons from the Book of Esther. How are you doing? I've had such a good week. Our darling little granddaughter, Lyla, graduated from kindergarten. Is there anything cuter than kindergarten kids graduating? I was lucky enough to be there to see her program, and it was just a joy. Our little Lyla, man, I tell you what, her personality is so big. I don't know who this girl is yet, but I cannot wait to see what she does with her life. She's such a joy. She wore her pink princess dress and her crown. It's just who she is. She can't not, right? And the whole time they were singing and performing, I could tell she just thought everyone was there for her. Her mom brought her some flowers to give to her after, and she just lit up when she saw those. They're purple, one of her favorite colors, of course. And she just kept smelling them and hugging them. And as we walked back to their house, after the program, she kept saying, "I'm just so in love with this day." And Delilah is just so delightful, and she's so delighted in everything. What a gift. I hope she never loses that sense of wonder, that delightment over everything. It's so fun to be her grandma. I'm sure it's so fun to be her parents and get to see more of this every single day. Her brothers are just completely smitten by her. She's just got this beautiful energy about her that she loves life so much and she delights in everything. I wish I could borrow a cup of it. What else has been good? It's been a fun week. Got to go to dinner with our boys and actually my dad and his darling girlfriend, Catherine. Quick shout out to beautiful Catherine, and thanks for listening to the podcast. I know she does. So anyway, it's so fun to get to know her better and just to see my dad happy. So I don't know, so many things to report, so many good things going on. I'm doing something a little bit different with today's episode. I was actually asked to be on another show to discuss the book of Esther in the Bible. And I so love the life lessons that we can learn from her story that I wanted to share them with you today, too. So I guess that's the joy of having your own podcast. You get to choose the content, you get to say what you want. So come along for the ride. I have several favorite heroines from the scriptures, but I have to say that Esther is easy top 5 for me. Actually, probably top 3. I don't know. It's hard to put them in order, but she's so inspiring. She's so amazing that I mean, even to this day, there's so many things that we can learn from her and the way that she lived her life. And I just think there's so much to share. So hopefully you'll get something out of this episode that will, touch your heart and actually inspire you too. I think one of the most remarkable things about the book of Esther is that it almost wasn't included in the Bible because the name of God is never explicitly named in the book. You see his hand all throughout the story. His guidance is woven through all of the events in her life. And just as we can see it in our own lives, honestly, if we have the eyes to see, right? But I'm so grateful that it was included and that we can all learn from her story. It's so impactful. For those of you who are not familiar with her story, I'm going to give you a quick, brief summary, and then I just really encourage you to go read the book of Esther for yourself. It is magical. It is so touching. It is so good. It's one of the best stories, I think, in history. But the story takes place during the reign of King Ahasuerus. He's the ruler of the Persian Empire, right? He's a big deal. And he has a queen, and her name is Vashti. Well, the king has a big party, like a 140-day party or something like that. And he invites all of the royal people from around the area, and they are just celebrating and having this big party. And one day, the king decides that he wants his queen, Queen Vashti, who's just a beautiful, beautiful woman, to come and show herself, show her beauty off to the other men there. right? And Vashti says, no, I am not doing that. I do not want to parade myself in front of other men. And she refuses to do it. And so he throws a tantrum. He removes her from her position as queen. He kicks her out and he tells all the men there that if your women don't mind you, this is what you should do too, right? So then he begins a search throughout the kingdom for a new queen. Well, among the young women brought to the palace is Esther. And Esther is a Jewish orphan. She's taken in by her cousin Mordecai, who is so good to her. He's a really good man. And he loves her. And he takes her and raises her as his own. Esther is beautiful and wise as she grows up, she finds favor with everyone around her, right? She is deeply loved. And so when the king sends out a summons to bring all of the eligible virgins to him so that he can choose a new queen, well, she catches his eye. She catches his favor and she's chosen by the king and she's crowned queen. And the catch is that she keeps her Jewish identity hidden at Mordecai's instruction. He tells her, just keep that to yourself for now, right? Well, meanwhile, Mordecai overhears some men plotting to assassinate the king, and he reports it through Esther, and it saves the life of the king. It ends up being true. He saves the king's life. And at the same time, there's a powerful official named Haman. And Haman becomes enraged because Mordecai, remember, who is, just a good man and doing his own thing, but he tells Mordecai to bow to him, and Mordecai won't do it because Mordecai says, I will only bow to God. So, because Haman is so filled with pride and filled with anger, Haman goes to the king and he persuades the king to issue a decree ordering the destruction of all the Jewish people throughout the empire because he wants to get rid of Mordecai. Well, remember, the king doesn't know that Esther is a Jew. So when Mordecai learns of this decree, he shows up to the grounds of I think it's a castle. I'm not sure what we would call it, but I'll call it a castle, right? And he sends a message into Esther, urging her to intervene. He tells her, please go into the king and plead their cause. And she sends a message back to Mordecai saying, hey, I can't do this. If I try to go see the king without being summoned first, he can put me to death. And so then Mordecai sends her this famous challenge, and he says, who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? He's saying, who knows? Maybe this is your destiny. Maybe this is the reason why you are the queen. God has a work to do in you, right? So Esther thinks on it. And what she does is she calls her ladies in waiting, her servants there, and sends a message to Mordecai saying, tell all of the Jewish people to fast for 3 days and pray for 3 days, and then I will go and approach the king. So she does this, and all of the people are praying and fasting for her. And she does go into the king, and she finds favor with him. And he tells her, you can ask me for anything, even up to half of my kingdom. And you would think at this point she would just tell him not to kill the Jews. But God knew that that was the wrong move. And he inspires Esther to instead invite the king and Haman to a banquet. So imagine, like, you are the queen, you can ask for anything in the world, and you tell the king, all I want is for you to come to a banquet. I imagine he was perplexed by that request, right? All through the story, it's so fascinating because we see God orchestrating the story so that his purposes can be fulfilled in the way that he wants them fulfilled. So at the banquet, Esther then reveals both her Jewish identity and she reveals Haman's plot against her people. Well, the king becomes furious with Haman. Haman's deviousness is exposed, and ultimately he executes Haman on the very gallows where he'd prepared for Mordecai to die, right, to be killed. So then the king thinks about it and he says, gosh, Mordecai is this man that saved my life. He revealed this plot to kill me. He goes, I should really show some respect and appreciation. So he elevates him, Mordecai, to a position of authority. And he grants a new decree allowing all of the Jewish people to defend themselves. They are delivered from that imminent destruction. And so then the story concludes with the celebration, the establishment of the Feast of Purim, which is a Jewish feast that still happens today and a tradition for them. And also remembering that God's providence and the deliverance of the Jewish people happened this way. Okay. And it's all because of this beautiful, incredible, strong woman, Esther. So let's talk about Esther and how we can apply what we learn through her story to our own lives. I think the first important point to think about is that your life carries purpose even when you cannot see it. I can't imagine a God who would send people to earth to walk around aimlessly. We all have purpose. I talk a lot about circumstances, right? Those things that we cannot control, things outside of our control. Well, Esther did not choose the circumstances that placed her in the palace, right? She didn't choose to be an orphan. She didn't choose to be adopted by Mordecai. She didn't choose to want to go be a queen. These were all things that she was told to do. Remember, women back then did not have the right to ask for what they wanted. They didn't have the position in society to choose their lives. They did what they were told, right? She didn't get to decide where she was or what she would do. And Mordecai tells her, again, like that famous line, who knows whether you have come to this kingdom for such a time as this? That question still matters. And it matters if we apply it to our own lives. Many of us spend energy wishing that we were somewhere else or had different circumstances or felt unequal to life's challenges. Esther's story invites us to ask more. What does God see in me? How might he use me if I get out of the way? If I stop letting my lower brain and my fear drive the bus? Why might I be in this particular season? Right? How can I use this for good? How can I use my influence for good? What actions would I take if I actually truly trusted in God? If I trusted to allow him to guide me? What would I do differently? I think our purpose unfolds when we ask the right questions. Esther teaches us that courage is rarely the absence of fear, right? Can you imagine how scary it must have been to summon the king, to ask, to make that request, to go stand before him and speak to him when she knew her life was on the line? I think one of the most misunderstood ideas about courage is that brave people are fearless. It's simply not true. Esther shows us something different, right? Approaching the king without that invitation would cost her her life. She was afraid and she moved forward anyway. And she uttered those famous words, if I perish, I perish, right? This isn't her being reckless. It's a courage rooted in conviction. And she shows up as her best, as a queen. She lets God guide her, even though she's probably scared to death. And again, she could have asked for anything, up to half of the kingdom, but she doesn't. She listens to God's direction and she asks him to attend a banquet. I can't even imagine. I put myself in that position and I think, really? Why would I ask for that? That seems really ridiculous. That seems silly. And yet she had faith. She trusted, right? He must have been so surprised, and she probably was too, but she listened and she followed. Have you ever had those moments in your life when you did something and you had no idea why you did it? You just felt like it was the right thing. And maybe you still don't know why, and one day you will, but right now you just have to kind of trust that it was the right thing. I had a weird experience one day. It's been in the past couple months, but I had a morning off and I decided that I would attend the temple and then run some errands in this certain part of town, in a town south of me. Right. And if you know me, I'm a route planner. I like efficiency. So even if anybody else is driving, I'm like planning, I'm like, my head's a GPS. I want to know the fastest, most efficient route, use my time most wisely. So I had my whole schedule set. I was going to attend this certain temple that was on the way to my route. I planned it. I left my house and I drove to a different temple. I remember pulling into the parking lot and thinking, what in the world, Jane? Why did you drive here? You were specifically planning on the other temple. But for some reason, it felt right. So I went inside, did the work I'd planned to do. Then I drove to the other area to finish my errands. And to this day, I still have no idea why God sent me to that temple that day, but I trust it had a purpose. Sometimes love requires risk. Esther ultimately risked her safety for her people, right? Love, we see in the scriptures, is rarely a passing sentiment, right? It often involves sacrifice and courage. But one thing I know for sure, as I've witnessed it over and over again, as I watch my own clients grow in this way, love that costs something often becomes the type of love that changes something. It takes courage to step in and make those changes in your marriage. It takes courage to speak up. That change that is required by that deep love and that willingness to be uncomfortable, that change is sweet and rich and priceless because it's forged through great effort. Forged through a willingness to walk a difficult path. Most of us won't choose it. It's far easier to walk away, to avoid the conflict, to stuff down our own desires, to just kind of endure to the end. But for those who choose it on purpose and do the work, the reward is so far better than anything you can imagine. It is the key to everything. I think Esther's example teaches us that you do not need to feel completely confident or capable before doing the brave thing. Often, courage for my clients looks like speaking up honestly to their spouse. It looks like setting a loving boundary. That love looks like advocating for someone else who disagrees. Or it looks like having a hard conversation with your adult child or taking the next faithful step while still feeling uncertain, right? I think Esther teaches us a lot about being grounded in our identity. If we know who we are, we can be stronger than our fear. It's interesting because there are three actors in this story that took very courageous actions based on their identity, their self concept. And I think it's important to honor each one of them. First, I would say is Vashti. Vashti, remember, is the queen that got kicked out. She got the boot, right? She knew who she was. She would not parade herself in front of other men, even though she knew it would anger the king. She stood grounded in who she was. She knew she was a divine being and above that kind of behavior. The second person is Mordecai, the uncle or the cousin, right? He would not bow to a royal officer because he knew who he was. He was a son of God, and he had decided that he would only bow to God. He stood firm in his identity. And then, of course, the third is Esther, who asks for that audience with the king, even though it could cost her her life. At first, Esther concealed that identity as a Jewish woman. There was a plan in that, there was purpose in that. And eventually, she did have to reveal who she truly was. But this is deeply relevant today because I think many people hide parts of themselves because they are afraid, right? We hide our convictions. We hide our desires. We hide our voice, our values, our dreams. We hide our pain. Our lower brains perpetuate fear, and that fear often whispers, stay quiet. Don't disappoint anyone. Don't risk rejection. I love the way that Esther's story reminds us that living disconnected from our deepest identity eventually becomes costly. Healthy growth, when we think about it, healthy growth asks, where am I hiding instead of showing up honestly? I experienced this myself when I wanted to change my own marriage. I knew I wanted my husband, but I didn't want the marriage that we were living. It took all the courage that I had to tell him this. It took all the courage I had to invite him to join me in creating something better. But I knew deep down in my heart that we were meant for something more. And I could not live an honest life knowing that we were failing to create the joy that we were meant to experience here. It was too painful. It was fraudulent to me. This is the kind of influence I'm talking about. It's not demanding. It's not about yielding power over other people. It's knowing who you are, staying grounded in your truth, and then influencing through your courage, through your integrity, through your emotional intelligence, and through your wisdom. This matters because far too many women, and I would say men too, of course, we underestimate our influence. You do not need a title or a platform or a position of authority to help shape lives. Your strength, your influence happens when you know who you are and you trust in God to stand firm in your identity. Esther could have remained silent, for sure. She could have just said, you know what, you're asking too much of me. I'm not willing to put my life on the line. I'm not doing it. Think of how her decision affected an entire population of people. Most of us underestimate that ripple effect of our choices. I see this in my coaching all the time. One woman's choice to mend her marriage blesses generations to come. Having a courageous conversation, learning to be compassionate and understand the way your partner acts and reacts, and finding compassion in that, right? A decision to lead differently, to step into a role that maybe feels uncomfortable, to step into being willing to make a change. Right? We rarely know how far our courage travels, but it is worth the risk to live boldly. I think we often grow through our unchosen circumstances. There are so many circumstances in my own life for sure that I know I never would have chosen, but I'm so, so grateful for them now. Esther didn't choose the political upheaval. She didn't choose the palace life. She didn't choose the danger or the uncertainty. And yet, her growth, her purpose, her courage all emerged from that. That emerged from those circumstances that really pressured her to grow. This speaks to real life over and over and over again. I can look back now. I can see how those difficult circumstances shaped me and helped me grow. It's blessed me with a greater perspective so that when I am working with my clients, I can see their hard things and I can easily see the benefit of those challenges that are available to them. Right? Difficult seasons are not meaningless. They are purposeful for all of us. But we have to seek the blessing of the lesson, right? We have to be willing to engage and to let those things shape us. Sometimes our deepest growth develops inside those situations that we would never have scripted, of course. But they're gems, gems that I would never give away. I think the final thing I want to talk about is how preparation precedes our calling, right? Before Esther stepped into her defining moment, there was preparation. She surrounded herself with faithful women who would fast and pray for her. You know, I think, and it wasn't a small ask either. It was 3 days, 3 days that she asked people to fast and pray. That's a long time to go without food, long time to go without water. But she stayed rooted in her identity. She surrounded herself with the support that she needed. And she stayed rooted in the truth of who she was. She stayed true to her faith. So, what did that look like? How did she stay rooted? I kind of like to consider what thoughts she might have chosen to think on purpose. You know, did she ask, what does God want from me or for me? Did she think thoughts like, I am strong, I can do hard things, I can be brave because come what may, I know God has my back, right? She believed and she was willing to ask those questions, to think those thoughts that strengthened her. If you feel stuck in your life, a helpful question might be, how might this season be preparing me rather than delaying me? I so love the story of Esther. She inspires me to rise up and claim my own divinity. I hope you feel it too. You may feel ordinary. You may feel uncertain or unprepared and still be called to live with courage and wisdom and purpose. That's the story for all of us. Nobody other than Delilah just feels like they can handle everything that comes their way, right? I mean, most of us are steeped in insecurity, but fear is not you. You're not your insecurities. Do the work to develop your own self-concept. Learn who you are. Ask God who he thinks you are. Take that in. Listen for those answers. Get to know yourself. Your self concept is everything. That knowledge is gold, and it will propel your life in ways that you never thought possible. Thank you for joining me today, friends. I sure love talking about things with you. If you found this helpful, won't you send me a quick note and let me know what spoke to your heart? I love hearing from you. And, of course, please share it with your friends who might be needing to feel strengthened in their own lives and feel like they can handle the challenges that they are going through too. Thank you for joining me. I love you so much. Next week will be my final episode before I go on summer break for June and July. So come back next week. And then when we take a break, go ahead and go back and re-listen to those episodes that you found especially helpful. Or if you are just new to the podcast, go start at the beginning and work your way through. This work is so good. It's so important, and it blesses our lives in so many ways. Have a beautiful week, my friends, and I will see you next time. Bye now. Hey, if you are ready to get unstuck and make your midlife amazing, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And I want to invite you to join my Empty Nest Academy, where you will learn how to transform your mind, your relationships, and your life. Come free yourself of regret and disappointment and be so much happier. Listen, sis, we've got one shot at this big, beautiful life. Let's make it amazing. Go to janecopier.com, that's JaneCopier.com, and sign up today. And if you're not sure what's right for you, book a free consultation with me and we'll talk it over together. And we'll make sure to get you on the path that serves you the best. See you inside.